यानी सवारी कितनी चाहिए?
Very sad, guys. It's terrible. Aviation accident, air crash disaster of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, the flight from Ahmedabad airport to London Gatwick. Hello my friends and welcome. My name is Dennis and I used to fly Boeing, not this one in particular, but Boeing 737. However, I may tell you something about this aviation accident from my own pilot perspective and my experience. I'm gonna return back to the CCTV camera image with more explanations. Now let's check out the details about the flight. So indeed it was the Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. It's the first air crash of this airplane type. This is the registration of the airplane. We may just Google and find a particular image of this airplane. As you may say, the airplane was produced 12 years ago in 2013, so it's kind of the good airplane. I would say 12 years for airplane is fine. There were 242 passengers on board. That's the huge number of the passengers because the airplane is big. But I think that they will renew the number because the airplane crashed into the residential area. But for now they put 0 as the other fatalities. The accident happened in Ahmedabad Sadar Airport, International Airport. Here we have the registration, India. The crash happened during the initial climb phase. You saw the airplane lost the altitude and went down to the ground. The destination was London Gatwick, one of the busiest airports out there in UK, and I was flying there many of the times. In India, I didn't fly to Ahmedabad, just to Delhi. The flight number Alpha India 171 Boeing 787 Dreamliner is reported to have crashed after takeoff on runway 23 at the international airport we mentioned. About the weather information, 2 of the recent reports indicate that the weather was fine. Visibility 6 kilometers, more than enough for any sort of the flights, even VFR. And the wind is 6-7 knots, very light according to the runway direction. The temperature, however, as you may see, was quite high, 36-37 degrees, but still acceptable for operations. Yeah, we have lots of the videos from the crash site. I just hope that there was no one on the ground in the place of impact. Again, guys, the information is very fresh. The only data we have now is from the flight radar 24 and from the CCTV camera images. Well, here we have the trajectory. The airplane was parked on this apron. It takes it almost straight towards the runway. Took off from runway 23 in this direction, and here is the last position recorded by the ADS-B data, which shows the location of the airplane. The last parameters which were recorded was the altitude 625 feet, the speed 174 knots, the vertical speed positive almost 900 feet per minute, plus the airplane maintained the runway track. I would say that the parameters are more or less okay for any sort of the departure, just the vertical speed is usually higher than that during the initial takeoff phase. But again, the last point, as you may see where it was recorded, is over the runway. Returning back to the CCTV image, and it's the first CCTV image coming, first video, you may see that there was no fire from the engines. The landing gear was down, which is kind of unusual because then you have the positive rate of climb. You select the gear up, it is manually down after departure. So if you go back again to the flight radar 24, you see the positive rate of climb, almost 900 feet per minute. You select the gear up, but on the image the gear was down. I guess that the reason why the gear is down is because pilots were deflected by something important and they just left the landing gear out there. You may see there is no bang, nothing. The airplane is also controllable. You may see how pilots increased the pitch just before hitting the ground, and it's clear that airplane lost the airspeed and had not enough lift to continue the flight. So as for me, the only reason for that is that something happened with the thrust of the engines. But at the same time, we may see no fire, no any smoke. Like even with Korean Jeju Air case, which I reviewed on this channel, you might see that there was the smoke coming from one of the engines. That's the result of the bird strike. Could it be the same scenario here in India? Bird strike? Yeah, it could be. But right away into 2 of the engines, this variant is kind of rare. Also, I don't see the visual trace of the engine surge or stall. It just seems like the engines somehow turned themselves off. Guys, I'm recording this video while we have lots of the information coming about this aviation accident. So at least 2 of the people report to be delivered to the local hospital. I wonder if those are passengers of the airplane or locals who were on the ground. And this is the crash site. From the close perspective, you may see some of the buildings and the remains of the airplane. Honestly, guys, the chance for survival for people on board in this case, the chances were low. And this is the aft part of the airplane. This is the exhaust of the auxiliary power unit. This is the part of the horizontal stabilizer. That's the tail of the airplane, basically the landing gear. Everything is just staring out of the building. But judging on this image coming, I don't think that someone survived on board of the airplane. You might see that the vertical stabilizer is just absent, and the fuselage after is just no more. Well, the only thing I might tell that flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, they're located at the tail part of the airplane, and in this case I guess it will be easy to find them. And there's the high chance that they saved this information. It's not the Boeing 737, it's after all Dreamliner, and no matter what happens to the engines, the flight data recorder will record all of the flight parameters till the very end, as well as the cockpit voice recorder. Again, if we return to the Jeju air crash where generators stopped producing power, in that case on Boeing 737, somehow the flight data recorder wasn't capable to record. Here is the other construction, much newer airplane, and will receive the data for investigation. For sure. The part of the wing just landed on the road, and this aircraft, guys, it's huge. The Air India case reminds me what happened to the Russian Ruslan aircraft Antonov 124, which crashed right after takeoff. This is the very big cargo airplane, and engines start to shut down right after departure. One by one, airplane lost lift and crashed into overhead. Officially, the reason for the crash was the poor maintenance down to the fuel system, but at the same time there are speculations that there are small particles of the ice which could be formed in the fuel system of the airplane. But it was cold out there, so it's not the case with Air India crash. Alright, we have the information about passengers. According to latest information, 169 passengers were citizens of India, 53 were citizens of Great Britain, 7 citizens of Portugal, and 1 citizen of Canada. Guys, my condolences to all who lost their relatives in this terrible crash. I just hope that at least someone survived the crash. But again, guys, for now we don't have any sort of the clue of what caused the aircraft to plunge down to the ground. As you might see, the weather is fine. In those weather conditions, there is no like microbursts or wind shears. My speculation here that somehow airplane lost the thrust, which didn't allow it to climb, so it's still down to the ground, losing lift. Was it a technical factor, human factor, or the bird strike? Well, only investigation might show. And hopefully we're gonna receive the data pretty much soon. I mean the data from the flight recorder and cockpit voice recorder. I also think that the situation with the aircraft deteriorated very fast, because during takeoff you have a V1 speed at which you continue or stop your takeoff, reject. And even with a single engine failure, you continue the takeoff because it's more safer than to stop, because the remaining distance wouldn't allow the airplane to stop safely. This V1 speed depends on many factors. Yeah, it's Air India, but it's the different aircraft, just a random video from some of the spotter in some of the airfield. My friends, are gonna keep you updated about more information coming about this aviation accident. I have lots of the followers from India. Again, my condolences to the nation, and especially to those who lost their loved ones in this very huge tragedy. It's very bad that this stuff continued to happen this year in aviation. Well, it's one of the worst for the last years. Well, guys, thank you for watching this video. See you.